Did you get everyone? Okay. Alright. Alright. Did you know that on average, teenagers of the current generation get not only more sleep, but also more leisure time than the teens of the past? However, the average teen uses 3 to 4 hours of their average 5 hours of free time on screens. Now, I'm not going to sit there and argue the validity of using screens for extended periods, because arguing against that would make me a hypocrite. Instead, I want to ask you all, why so many teens resort to their electronic devices during free time? I would argue this is because it's the easiest option available. After all, a PC or Xbox doesn't move out of its place. Unlike many other activities that require you to go outside your home to partake in them, many video games and phones don't even require you to leave your bed in the morning. However, as a teen, have you ever considered why so many of your parents' best memories happen outside their home? I believe this is because it's a break from the monotony. It's really easy to fall into a cycle of repeating the same things every day, and using electronics is one of those things. Coming home from school exhausted can lead to many students not wanting to go out and do unique things. While I certainly agree in some respects, I think students should still do things outside their comfort zones. Go out and have adventures with your friends or take part in an activity you've never done before. After all, the teenage years are when you are really discovering yourself and learning new things through your choices and activities. I think one thing that perfectly encapsulates my points is my experience at Camp Fitch. I first attended in my 9th grade year as a camper. I was scared the whole time because this would be my first time not only sleeping outdoors, but also being away from my home for longer than a few days. Even worse, I wasn't allowed to bring my phone. I would say that I was reasonably scared. Even though I was bringing my friends with me, I came in confident that I'd be able to have at least a little fun with them the whole summer. This is the only real sense of security in the whole situation. Even if I got bored, tired, scared, I would have my 2 friends nearby to make me feel better. My hopes were broken immediately upon being told about the nature of the activities at Camp Fitch. While the list of activities seemed very nice, as they offered many different things, many of which seemed fun. Apparently, we would sign up to things we wanted to and be randomly selected for each activity, as they did not have enough room in each one to keep everyone in. My friends and I tried to line up our lists to hopefully be paired together in the activities, but it was for naught. I found out later that day that I would be in my activities alone and away from my friends. After a night of restless sleep in the wilderness, I awoke and began my trek towards my first activity, hatchet throwing. Now, hatchet throwing isn't really something I wanted to do when I saw it was available on the list. Really, I only had it as an option on my list because I needed to fill out one more spot. To say I wasn't excited about throwing hatchets was an understatement. I was so angry about this turn of events, especially since I had listed this activity under the one I wanted to be in the least of the 5. I arrived at the place to find 3 chunks of wood standing upright in the middle of a field and 2 adults sitting in pool floats. The 2 introduced themselves as the substitutes instructors. The normal hatchet master was out for a week-long break, and they would be subbing in his place. Normally, this wouldn't really matter. However, they informed us that they really did not know how to throw hatchets properly. Without the hatchet master there, we all collectively shared zero knowledge on anything regarding the actual activity. The news was really upsetting, even though I didn't want to be there. I was at least hoping to actually learn the activity I was there for. Any actual teaching that day came from one student like me who had experience. He had been there for many years and taken the course 3 times before, which made him the most experienced. He tried his best to teach the correct form and procedure, but it wasn't the best explanation I've heard. Personally, I was struggling to stick any of the hatchets I was throwing for the whole class. It drew closer to midday and the sun was beating from overhead. I was genuinely hating my experience so far. I hadn't been able to do much of anything for the full hour I'd already been there. I was getting exhausted, not only from the physical labor, but also from the constant direct sunlight with no nearby shade. Glad that the class was nearing its end, I walked up to the line and with my hatchet in hand, ready to get my final throw over with. I began following the instructions to the best of my ability and swung the axe. I looked up to see it spinning through the air and reaching its destination at just the right angle to hear a satisfying thunk. I had managed to stick the axe into the wood, one of the few successful attempts that whole day, and I was weirdly happy about it. Despite having struggled and hated the rest of the class, I was really excited about the hit. I wanted to keep throwing, but the class was over before I got another chance. I walked to lunch where I sat with my friends. They jokingly asked me how hatchet throwing had gone since they had known I was upset about being put into it earlier. I was really surprised by my response. I had to explain to them how engaging of a sport it was. I launched into an entire monologue about how interesting and fun it was to throw hatchets. How you had to account for the spin and where to let it go. I managed to pique their interest as well, and they agreed to go with me during free time and try it out for themselves. I'm not exaggerating when I say that these were my most fun moments at camp. I didn't just get to try it out, but I didn't just get them to try it out, but I had them coming back more than once to throw hatchets. We joked and laughed about how good we each were. We competed for the most landings. During my course, when we would learn different ways to throw, I would come back and teach them what I learned, and we would try new techniques on the fly. Leaving camp was a weird experience that year. Not only was I saying goodbye to everyone I'd met during my stay, but also to my newfound love for hatchet throwing. I knew that going home pretty much meant that I would give up on throwing permanently, since I had no way of getting my own hatchet to throw, nor the money to actually go out and do it myself. As a result, I now had an interesting hobby that I realistically could only do a couple of days of the year. I try hatchet throwing whenever I can now. I've gone back to Camp Fitch multiple times, and I always make sure to throw at least one. Sadly, many teens do not want to have these experiences. I understand that staying indoors and doing the things that you know you like are the easiest way to get enjoyment out of your free time, but I don't believe in the idea of finding a routine and sticking to it for your whole life. For some people, my story may be unrealistic. Not everyone has the money to go to camp or the ability to stay away from their home for long periods. Instead of following me, I urge all teens to go out and try new things, starting small. Instead of a week away from home, perhaps look through your school clubs. Take a class you wouldn't normally, or take a gander through the local advertisements and look for an hour-long course on new skills. After all, a local 1-hour crocheting class could turn into a lifelong hobby or potentially even a career.
Good job.
I'm done.